Hi everyone, this is Matt Kinders with Module 1 in Educational Leadership. A little about me: I'm from River Falls, Wisconsin, born and raised. I moved to Oklahoma in 2009, and then in 2012 I graduated with my undergraduate degree in international business, and I worked in the financial industry for a couple of years before pursuing a dream to move to Asia and work abroad as an English teacher in the ESL world. I've lived in a few countries in Asia. I started in Phnom Penh, Cambodia in 2014 when I received my initial TESOL certification to become qualified ESL teacher. I worked as a secondary school teacher in Sakonnakhon, Thailand. After Thailand, I moved to Guangzhou, China in 2015. I was working with international school in a primary school, and I was working with grades 1, 3, and 6, and that was in southern China, just a little ways north of Hong Kong. And I've currently been in my school here in Shanghai since July of 2016. That school is Shanghai Trade Union's kindergarten. I've been here 3 years. This is my second year as the head teacher. In my particular class, I have 18 students, and in the English program that I'm helping to oversee and train and facilitate with our school that we work with, we have 420 students enrolled. When I started, there was only me and 2 other guys at our school. We now have an office of 7 from Europe, from England, from South Africa, and North America. There's 7 teachers now, and we will be expanding to 9 teachers or 11 teachers next year, and we'll be adapting our curriculum into a more Montessori style as we continue forward. So as I read this article, why do politics influence schools but not necessarily move school leaders to take action based on politics? The 10th Amendment in American society and education effectively separates the school system from the direct oversight of the federal government, and states are allowed to autonomously dictate the norms of their schooling procedures. So because of this particular law that's written into effect, these special zones and special districts are a part of and yet separate from the norm of the federal government's what they have dictated for them. The 10th Amendment shields these 13,000 special districts from federal oversight, but they are not completely autonomous. These special districts are vulnerable to particular government policies that can affect how the school plans and executes their plans. The most effective tool that the government has is providing funding for these special districts, and it is up to the federal government to decide how this funding is dispersed to the states. Why did standards focus on outcomes and seemingly split the work and skills of a profession from the knowledge and wisdom of that profession? For the school leaders, and it is in order for those school leaders to most appropriately provide for the districts they represent and serve, superintendents must be able to become more political activists on behalf of their special districts in order to acquire those federal resources in budgeting for their districts. So in order for educational professionals to best be able to provide quality education to the shareholders of the community in which they represent, the leadership must ensure that federal funding becomes available, and so they must then rely on political maneuvering in order to ensure that funds are allocated to their community they represent, and ensure that students receive materials, resources, enough staff to meet the needs as is set at the federal level. So why did the standards evolve to explicitly call for school leaders' direct action? School leaders must be responsive to the needs of the individuals and the shareholders within their organization and within the community in order to most adequately serve those people. They also The politicalization of the principal and the superintendent in their function as advocates for their community is necessary to ensure that resources are allocated to their buildings and their districts. School leaders must become political activists on behalf of students and their families because they are the most stringent line of defense when it comes to allocating resources necessary for those shareholders. Also, the differentiated process of influence that federal committees have over special districts means that those districts must fight for federal aid, and they must appeal to those committees rather than the committees simply providing a standard allotment. Each special district essentially must fight for itself. That's the job of the superintendent and the principal, are the local advocates for their communities, to ensure that they are able to allocate what is necessary for their particular campuses and buildings and districts. Why do politics surrounding educational policies provide the strongest connection between what school leaders feel and do and their abilities to strategically think about how to handle it all? The average day for educational leaders, like they said, is a roller coaster of emotions. That could come from issues within their community to within their building, and it probably resonates across the nation as well with other superintendents. The National Policy Board for Educational Administration coaches administrators at the building level, those principals and the superintendents at the district level, for achieving success on behalf of their community. It's a toolkit for them to learn how to be successful in that environment. Leaders must recognize that the balancing act between needs of individuals within the school and groups in the community and needs that must be met at the federal level are best met through collaboration with their colleagues. So once I read this, my critique of my decision-making processes and leadership decisions, I know that in my current position as a head teacher, I work well with others and I maintain social accountability with my co-workers. I like to have a space where I collaborate with the experiences and specialties of my co-workers. However, my situation in China, strong individual leadership within a hierarchy from the top down is what is most responded to in a culture, in a setting where I am now. So I'm in a position where I balance more of a strongman leadership position when I'm particularly working with my Chinese coworkers, but I also balance collaboration with my Western colleagues, so I'm somewhere in the middle in that. Improving my educational leadership skills, I must remember that collaboration is key. There's many experts and many different experiences that many people bring to the table that I can improve on as well. Delegating responsibility to my colleagues to coordinate efforts as a cohesive group is essential especially for when we are working to allocate funds from a federal committee. And I also must maintain an awareness of the structure of how resources are allocated to schools in the public sector of a foreign country. That would be a great asset to me in my situation. So, thanks for watching.